Tell us about your role, Edna, in Microsoft as VP of Global Security, Risk and Compliance, and the responsibility of that within the Azure platform as General Manager. You're very welcome.
I'd be delighted to talk about it, but I'd be remiss if I didn't say how sad I am that I can't be there in person with you. And so looking forward to being in Cork sometime soon in the future. So let me really start by saying what it is that I committed to the company, Michael. And what that is, I'm known for bold statements. So I committed to ensuring that the world's computer, which is what we call Azure, is actually secure, sustainable, and resilient. Not a commitment for the faint of heart, I might say. And so by secure, what I really mean is that it's available ubiquitously to handle every workload without any kind of disruption, and really kind of without any compromise at all. By sustainable, what I really mean is saying that we are going to meet the needs of the world today, but also be aware of not leaving a footprint that negatively impacts the planet in the future. And then by resilient, what I really mean is making sure that we can think about that sort of end-to-end spectrum of the world in which we live and think about it proactively so that we are ready for the inevitable. Oh, let's just say a pandemic hits. And we can continue to exchange ideas and thoughts as we are today over the Azure platform. So that's really what I'm doing today. And I think the challenge is doing that in the reality that Azure extends over 140 countries across the globe today.
Tell us a little of the scale of Azure, 140 countries, number of people, online, corporations, and some of the complexity that is driving change at the front end of our business.
Okay. It's a great question. There's about 2 days worth of answers embedded in how I respond to that. But Azure as an organization is very deeply embedded across Microsoft. And so as a group, we are roughly 25,000 people thinking about networking, IoT, compute, storage, edge, and many other things, but the one near and dear to my heart, of course, is Azure hardware systems and infrastructure. The actual design, development, innovation, and tangible equipment that makes the data center run, that allows all of our customers to actually have the experience with Azure and embed Azure into, if you will, the very fabric of their businesses and their lives. The utilization, of course, has been up without a doubt. We are continuing to see growth. I won't give you a direct quote. You can imagine they are in the hundreds of millions of users on a daily basis, and that continues to grow. And the one thing that's unique about an information communications technology company is we leverage our own capabilities. So we can leverage the utilization by, for example, Office 365 or Bing, who are customers. They happen to be our family members, but they too are customers, right? So it's not only embedded into the fabric of our third-party customers, it's embedded into the way we work at Microsoft.
Fantastic. Tell us about how does that fit in your previous role as Chief Security Officer of the Cisco value chain. This is give us an idea of the scale of that, because you've just taken over this role, and it is a high change environment, but the value chain.
Yeah, there is a linkage, and the roles have some commonality. The role at Microsoft is a little bit broader. So at Cisco, I had the privilege of being the Chief Security Officer for something we called the global value chain. And let me start by saying, what is this thing called the global value chain? And the way I like to describe it was, just imagine the end-to-end life cycle and all the third parties who at any point are involved in that life cycle for any solution, whether it was a Cisco hardware, software, service, solution. So those third parties could include anything as diverse as a logistics and transportation provider for equipment, or someone who is doing design services, or better yet, someone providing a tangible component like an ASIC or a printed circuit board, or quite frankly, in Cisco's value chain is Azure, which is a cloud service provider delivering a platform upon which we build cloud offerings to our customers. So the family doesn't go very far when you're in information and communications technology. And the broadness of that was pretty extensive. Those third parties, roughly, let's say 25,000 suppliers, 60, 70,000 service partners, a service organization that had third-party providers doing repair services, so 150 roughly 1,000 people who were in that third-party ecosystem. Now, Microsoft, when I say I am ensuring that the Azure hardware systems and infrastructure is secure, right, and sustainable and resilient, that means I have to have my arms around my own family, as well as all of that third-party ecosystem. So I have both sides of the equation in this new environment, which is a little bit broader, one might say, than the environment that I had the privilege of leading at Cisco.
Thank you. Currently with COVID-19, it's all changed, and the values have changed, scale has changed. How do you see, and what changes you see over the next 12 to 24 months, and how does this present into the future for risk and business continuity and trusted suppliers, et cetera, and that's linking into everybody being connected in this new world?
Yeah, I think we were connected before. I think we didn't quite realize it. Let's put it that way. And I've been telling people the interesting thing is, if folks had any doubt about the robustness of what we built in what I used to call years ago the digital economy, and I'll talk about what I think it is now, think about any other kind of utility, and you and I chatted about this. If you ramped the utilization of water or electricity or any other government-provided utility in 48 hours, the way we ramped utilization of digital platforms, I'm not sure they would have sustained the demand increase in that period of time. And yet look at where we are today, right? So everything that we've been building and predicting, unfortunate reason as to why it came to pass, but didn't it come to pass? And isn't there a silver lining, and I'd argue a platinum lining? And that platinum lining is this, and we should all be aware of it. We now have ubiquitous availability, and we're working in a platform economy. So what we need to do is understand who's providing those platforms. What are the indicia of trust that we can look for from our platform providers, Azure included, and we're proud to share that kind of information. More importantly, it changes the lens on what you think about risk, because you now have to think not only about your own environment, but a different type of third parties. And you have to have a different level of trust. Because when you think about a supply chain, you can follow the chain. When you think about a platform, you may never truly know every third party that is in the platform you are relying on. So now indicia of trust and an understanding of the commitment to resiliency and availability become imperative. That's the change moving into the future that I think we're going to see. And we're preparing to have our customers demand that of us. And I'm preparing to develop empirical data to support why it is that we're the #1 trusted platform on the planet. It's a bold move, and it requires something that might be uncomfortable for some of us, right? Which is a little more information sharing and transparency in a world where intellectual property is protected and guarded covetously. I think we have to open the kimono a bit more.
Thank you. And we have here online with us many angel investors. These angel investors invest in early stage companies from around Europe, and also entrepreneurs up and coming. new economy, the new teams, some of them deep tech, and we've heard some today. What mindsets are needed, do you think? And you are also involved in early stage companies, and you also do advise investors from time to time in what is coming up. So what is your view of the mindsets needed to be successful in the upcoming new economy?
I think there are a lot of changes, but I think some of them are fundamental. And so the first I would say is, as you're looking at every effort, whether you're the entrepreneur or whether you're the investor, look at the investment and what you're building with the life cycle in mind. You cannot ignore it any longer, period. So many people are saying, well, I have to think about design and develop, Edna. This is what I'm focused on. I'm hiring for this. And like, that's fantastic. How are you going to deliver it? How is it going to be utilized? How is it going to be acquired? What's the service model? If you're not thinking about that at the beginning, you don't have quite the richness in a platform economy. I think the other thing is, let me say that word one more time, the platform economy. Not everybody has to build a new platform, but how can you build on top of it? Is what you are building now in the new world in which we live, which I believe will stay with us, something that is functionally usable by everyone in every aspect of their lives? I think we're going to see a little bit of blending as we have today. I'm coming to you live from my home. This is my home office, of our daily lives as well as our enterprises. And when you start to think about that, you start to skew your perspective with a wider aperture, right? Instead of saying this is a workload platform for enterprises and they're going to use it in this capacity, how about thinking about this is a platform for third-party risk and everyone can use it? Wouldn't it be kind of interesting if you could go and use a platform and decide whether or not the refrigerator and the toaster of choice that you were selecting, which was connected, had availability on software updates and reliability embedded in their specs? I think we're going to move there. I think consumers are going to take us there. I think the other thing is, be aware of the fact that more than any other time, I believe, in history, we have to be aware of global realities. Some of those are good, and some of them have some serious ramifications on enterprises. If you're not aware of global trade restrictions and the realities of security and privacy variability, and rising to make your denominator that which allows you to be ubiquitously available, you're missing an opportunity. Quite frankly, the refrigerator is going to be used in Japan, in Saudi Arabia, in Cork Island, and right here in New Hampshire in the United States. Be aware of those facts. And then finally, I would say, just be cognizant of the fact that we have an opportunity to leverage talent in a new way. Talent is everywhere. And there's a pro and a con to that. The pro is you can acquire it from anywhere, regardless of where it's located. The con is, if you don't take care of your workforce, it will leave. And leaving is easier than ever. It's a click. I'm done with you now. I'm moving on to my next engagement.
Well, you're not leaving us for a moment, Edna. And so what are the opportunities that you see based on your perspective in the various value chains, and also now on the Azure platform, for emerging companies, and also globally outside of that, because you have far greater reach with regard to this disruption?
I think if I left you with some sort of mindset of where we should be looking collectively, we, the global economy, but more importantly, we, the innovators, is let's remember that all of this capacity that we're experiencing in its full richness is built on hardware technology. So I would like to, and in fact, I had an opportunity to speak to some investors at the last in-person event that I did, the RSA conference. seems like ages ago, back in what, February or March, I guess. And what I talked about was silicon innovation, hardware innovation. I think we need to come to a new era, right? When you think about the Industrial Revolution and how we moved, we've been talking about this fourth industrial revolution, but are we thinking about how the building blocks of what we are built on, those platforms, need to change? Do they need to change form factor, size, capacity, longevity? Do they need to change in the elements that they're using, because we may be running out of some of the materials on this planet that we use to form them? And if I looked at a group of investors recently virtually and said, invest in some foundries. We need more of them. We need them globally distributed. High intensity capital. Let's not forget, we need that in order to enable cloud as a platform, SaaS, X as a service, right? The two go hand in hand. We seem to have forgotten the underpinnings. Let's not let our infrastructure erode.
Fantastic. And putting something back for people, what's your advice personally, investing in the new economy by doing something to broaden the impact of what you do outside of, you're involved in many different things that give great satisfaction, not directly to the core. And how important is that to actually nurture on new people and new ideas and actually build a community?
So I think building a community also has a new meaning in a time when we're understanding, quite frankly, some of the frailties and some of the fundamental needs of we as humans, right? We may not be able to physically hug one another, but my answer is a classic answer. You know me fairly well. I'm going to go back to do what your mother and your father and your children are teaching you and have taught you. Understand your humanity. Treat your workforce with care. Understand, I can give you a glaring example. I have a colleague who is an artist, interestingly enough, works in HR. And I happened to pick up in one of these wonderful conversations we're now having with people's homes that this particular colleague had beautifully sustained glass behind them. And I said, "Did you make that?" She said, "Yes." And she picked up her laptop and went on a magical tour of her home, including her studio. And I discovered something about her that I didn't know. And here's what that does for each of us. It allows us to see a way in, a way to the heart. And it gives us a business advantage. Don't forget that. I now, when I speak to that person, can talk about weaving the quilt, the mosaic of glass. This is what my architecture is. And it resonates in a unique way. Reach out as you can, even if you're not touching, and include others as their full selves into what you're doing with them every day. And just spread a little love, because we in business have it to give, and we need to remind ourselves and our people that it's there for the taking.
Thank you, Edna. It's been a pleasure, and I'm absolutely delighted that you've been available for this call, and we look forward to seeing you personally in Ireland, in Cork, for April, all being well, fingers crossed, for April 2021, if not sooner. And we will meet again, and all our good wishes from the Emerald Isle. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. It was my privilege. Bye for now.